to actually have this conversation too.
Mel, do you want to say the welcome to Motherland one last time?
Yes! Welcome to Motherland. Melanie's on a sabbatical for a while. As we explore.
Can we call it that? Can we call it a sabbatical?
Yeah, I like that. I feel comfortable with that.
Because I'm not good at goodbyes, and it's not that I don't want to honor what you're saying, but I don't feel that. I just don't.
I think you're making the right choice right now for you. And I think that looks like taking some time off and taking a break and pulling back for a while. And like I said, the door's always open. So I think you're making the right choice for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sisters, for real.
Thank you.
Trusting the nuggle. We just had a conversation about trusting your gut, trusting the process. And I'm taking a bit of a sabbatical to reevaluate my entire life. Here we are. And then Oneika just got back from Slovenia. Like, I want to hear about that and what you got from that trip. And Isabel just working. I want to hear. Trusting.
Yeah. I think we're all kind of trusting our gut in different directions in different ways. It's interesting. I really see this. What I mean, I love this dynamic. You're trusting your gut and I need to pull back. I'm trusting my gut with like, I need to switch all my services and move forward. And Oneika, I think you're in general trust your gut with just your life.
I do actually feel like I'm in a real trust your gut with your life. So I'm not really going to talk too much about Slovenia because the retreat was definitely very personal, but it was I will tell you, for me, being in another country for a week in a very special place was transformative because I realized I can trust myself. And I remember saying to somebody while I was there, one of the things and I wrote a post about this like a few months ago maybe, that people say trust your gut, but if you don't know what it is to trust your gut, how can you? And so I think the process of learning how to trust your gut starts with learning how to know yourself and what's happening in your body. And as we're recording this, today is World Meditation Day. So I think one of the ways that I have learned to trust my gut is by having a solid meditation practice so I can really know what's happening in my body.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being able to gauge from the gut.
Yeah, because my gut used to lead me to some real bullshit. Like,
same.
That would lead me like, having an extra 3 drinks and ended up in the bed of somebody that, I'm like, how did I even get here? So that's not always, and I was trusting my gut then.
Yeah.
So I think it's trusting my gut was also learning to say, is the way that you're living the best way that you could be living for yourself right now?
Right. Ooh, yeah, I've learned through many
asking those questions and being able to listen to the answers without running from the feeling of shame.
Right. Oof.
I think the question that comes up for me is how do you know you're trusting your gut or you're trusting your ego?
Say that.
Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh, it sounds like ego. It doesn't sound like gut, So I'm like, how do you tell the difference between trusting your gut and trusting your ego?
When the outcomes for everyone's highest, that's that spirit. Yeah. The ego is like me centered. That's what I got.
Yeah. And I think we need a little bit of ego because ego keeps us safe, like a little
human
ego keeps us safe. Like ego tells us not to like walk in front of traffic. But I also think that trusting is learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think of it as causing the least amount of harm to myself and others, which I think is, what Mel is saying, like, your highest good. How do I move from a place that that is good for me and the collective,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a practice for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think trusting your gut is a practice. It's understanding, yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, it is definitely a practice. But, I think trusting, it's funny, Spirit has me jumping around because I'm over here thinking about like, what does it mean to trust your gut, right? Like, what does that look like in the sense, right? Everybody's like, I mean, so does it mean you get butterflies? Does it mean you get that rush of energy? Does it mean you get like, what does it look like, right? Does it mean you get these surge of emotions? But every time I think about trusting the gut, especially as somebody that's always like coaching people in some direction of life, I'm just going to say that in general, that's like the biggest struggle they have is trusting these feelings, because they've gotten so used to like flight or flight, fight or flight method. And so it's like, how do I relearn how to trust my gut? How do I relearn how to rely on my gut to let me lead? How do I know I'm making the right decision? Right. And I think that's what we talked a little bit before. It's like sometimes our decisions are based out of fear. Sometimes we're basing them out of, we shut that gut off is but basically what I'm saying is like we've all learned how to kind of shut it off. And I think now we're moving into stage where it's like we need to learn how to like turn it on or acknowledge it. So I think that's the thing. Like, how would you encourage somebody to learn to relearn how to trust it and to acknowledge it?
Yeah. I had a friend who came in this weekend, self-awareness and how everything just goes back to self-awareness. Are you self-aware? Are you looking at yourself in the mirror 24/7? You're asking these questions. And both of us were like, yeah, we started to. It's rough. That's shadow, right? And but it was so cool the way she was saying it, and me too. It was like from a soft space, like being self-aware, like speaking your truth with love. And I think that's where you can trust yourself when you come from a higher vibration in that space. It's taking time to sit with yourself, that grounded peace. Man, I've been preaching that all year, and I'm like 24/7 have to know what that looks like for yourself. That's the awareness. Yeah.
I think for me, I feel like I'm jumping around a lot too. So
that's okay. Go with it.
One, I think I realized I learned how to trust my gut when something happened and I realized I didn't trust it in the first place.
Right.
When I ignored it, that's when I realized that was my first sort of lesson. And the thing I'm thinking about very specifically was right before I got fired from T-Mobile. I was in a store with my ex-fiance, this like little apothecary, and I was talking to the owner how like she was like living her best life. She had this store, she was selling all this cool stuff. And I was saying how miserable I was at T-Mobile, how I hated my job and I wanted to do something else. And it's so funny how strong I can feel this. I can even see where I was standing in this little store and something saying, quit, just quit. I can hear it. I could hear the voice say, just quit. And I remember ignoring it. And then 2 weeks later, I got fired.
They're like, we'll do it for you.
Yeah. And then when that happened, and I was first in denial that I got fired because I had never been fired before, so I didn't know what that. I was like, "What do you mean I'm fired?
Yeah.
Does not compute. I don't understand what you are saying. I have never failed before." But then I flashed back to that moment when I heard the quit and I didn't do it. That I think was the very start for me for saying, I know more than I think that I know, and I need to start listening to myself and trusting that feeling. So that was part one. And then I think part two of that was learning how to own every part of myself so I could start to learn how to listen to that voice when it was in the moment. So I had to be okay with the shadow work that you were saying, Mel. Like I had to embrace all of it so I could notice, like that flash of intuition. And then I think the last part is that first my healing needed to be really soft and tender. And then I think I'm in a place right now where I'm instilling a little bit more discipline. So while it might not look soft to people on the outside, there is a loving, very strong accountability I have with myself, because I can't just be soft and lounge all day. Like, that was good when I was healing and I needed to, but now that I'm like, okay, I'm in this place, if I just lounge all day, my whole life is just gonna, like, fucking pass me by.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, that discipline, I love that word, because that comes into play a lot. Like, are you accountable? Are you disciplined? It's like,
Right.
ugh. My shamans always use that word with me. They're like, are you disciplined? I'm like, the, the little kid with the big eyes, like, trying to be. Wow. That was a good point.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking of like, I'm a little bit kind of off right now, I think, in learning how to like, how do you guys say it? I think everything I do in my life is a big thing of trusting your gut, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a big thing of like, I look at my life and the way that I've led it. I've definitely learned how to lean more on my gut than leaning more on what people would name as logic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
that's why I think I push it so much. For me, I think trusting your gut, if we are focused more on trusting your gut for the highest, right? We're focusing more on like trusting your gut for the highest vibration or the highest for yourself versus I'm trusting my gut and I'm making a stupid ass decision, right? So we're looking more at like the positive aspect of it. And I think it's always going to be aligned with whatever your truth is, whatever your own truth and authenticity is. But I think to get to the understanding of what is my truth or what feels right for me, there's a lot. Like I'm learning as someone that's like studied the nervous system and health, right? They say like your gut is your second brain.
Your vagus nerve,
is your second brain. And so everything in there, right, when you look at the fact that your gut alone stores memories. I want you guys to realize that it stores memories. It stores your past traumas. It stores your past decisions. It stores all of that. And I think like I'm processing right now as I think like that makes sense onto why we navigate it sometimes out of our fear-based of like, I don't want to rely on it because it's storing these memories and to process it. But I think you guys all said it right when you were like, you have to have the awareness into the decisions you're making and why you're making them, right? Like, this is my gut. Is my gut leading me in the right decision? Is it guiding me in the right area? And kind of looking at always like what's the best for you. I think we can build an overconfidence in our gut. We can definitely, some of us can be very egotistical in our gut. Some of us can make these decisions based on the wrong choices. But at the end of the day, I think it's like, is this serving your truth? Is this serving your authenticity? To make sure that you are following your gut in that sense when people are like, am I making the right decision? I don't know, is this who or in alignment to where you're becoming or where you're navigating to? I think a lot of times people, especially, in my line of work, I work with a lot of women that are making very drastic relationship choices. I don't want to say drastic, but like they're making like, I'm going to get a divorce. I'm going to leave my husband, or I'm going to step forward even into this relationship that, after years of pain and hurt. And there's a lot of fear based on my gut is telling me to do this, but what about all of this? Do you know what I mean? What about the navigation of it all? And I think at the end of the day, like I answered this question to somebody and I was like, trusting your gut is really scary because yes, it is relying on your intuition, but you have to learn to look at your intuition based solely on yourself. You have to learn on trusting your gut solely as trusting what's right for you and not what's right for everybody else around you, right? And if something is in your life that you cannot be the highest version of you, then it's not in alignment. Is it taking more work to stay, quote, in the job, or taking more work to, quote, stay in the relationship and smothering yourself, right? It takes more work to put the tape over your mouth and to hold that vibration than to live in trusting my gut and following what I feel is right, even though logically doesn't make any sense.
Totally.
Right?
It's really that somatic work, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing that with a healer for 3 years now. It's like bringing your mind back into your body and then connecting it to your heart. It's doing the breathing techniques and then going into the subconscious work, right? It's like, what is the root of this and how do we go backwards and heal that so you can move forward? Right? It's a lot. That's the shadow. When I speak about shadow and like knowing who you are and your gauge point, it's like you got to go backwards. And that's, I feel like Oneika is pro at this because you do this automatically with yoga, right? You're connecting to your body daily, your breath, right? That somatic energy all the way from your gut up. It's just some, when people go, damn, do you exercise? I'm like, I do. What, you mean body or soul? Because it's like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
soul work. Woo.
And I don't know. It wasn't my ego used to rule my asana practice. So I think it's a yes and, right? Because when I first started practicing, I'll say asana, I won't say yoga, because when I was first doing the postures, it was very show offy. It was like, look at me, stand on my head, look at me do a handstand, look at me wrap my leg around my head. I would compare myself to the person next to me. I would compare myself to the teacher teaching class. I would, even when I first became a yoga teacher, I would be judging people's practices when I was on my mat. Mm-hmm. And then I would be like, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? Like, what are you doing? And then I had to ask myself, why am I doing that? And it was a deep place of insecurity with myself.
Right.
And so that's like what I'm talking about, like unpacking stuff. Mm-hmm. I couldn't just trust, everything because I wasn't being honest with myself about things that I want to confront. Right. So I think the first step for me trusting my gut was confrontation about how I was really talking to myself and moving in the world and connecting with other people. And it used to come from a place of judgment. Like, I don't think I'm good enough, so I'm going to like point the finger and silently criticize you. And then I think I started to unpack that. Then I began to have my physical practice is a microcosm of what's happening in my life. So when I would hear myself to start judging other people, after I started to know myself, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? Why are you judging? What's going on? Why don't you just start doing that? So then it becomes a flag. But until you know what you're doing, you can't really move from that. So
totally. That's like that conversation Isabel and I had last summer where we're like, man, we were taught by healers that were spiritual bypassing. And we didn't know. And I feel like the trend that I've seen around my friends, my healer friends, all of us, is like we all had to go through that breaking down of the ego. You have to, right? And it's like taking accountability and be like, oh, look how far I've grown though. That was necessary, right?
Yeah, I think for me too, it's also what's my own ego, what's ancestral trauma, what is colonization, you know what I mean? Like I think since we're talking about, this BIPOC lens, that's, I think, a piece of it too. Like, what's the healing that is from colonization that I'm also unpacking too? Right. So, and then I'm still unpacking a lot, like I guess we all are. So it was a practice. I will say I did this contemplative movement practice so you were talking about somatic work, Mel, that I think was really powerful, where I just let myself like move. And if for those who are listening, like I'm like stretching my arms really wide and like moving slowly. And it was just like allowing myself to move, roll around on the floor or like sigh and breathe really heavy to move things out,
Yeah. And I've been following
have to name the thing. Sometimes you just need to like,
just move it,
get it out.
Oh, it feels so. Atasia, your friend from Lost Resort, I've been following Ecstatic Dance LA because I know he's one of the partners, and I'm just like, that looks so fun.
You should go.
I know, I want to go. We should all go.
What is it?
There was a post that they were dancing with headphones at the beach, and the dolphins showed up for an hour, and I was like crying. I was like, how beautiful. And they were all cheering. And I was, of course, dolphins can hear, the sounds from the headphones, the vibrations, the frequencies. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Freedom. Like when he started that, because I followed him when, he just started that Instagram page and the events, I was like, this is going to blow up, and it's blowing up. It's because the collective's like, we need to move our bodies, and it doesn't matter how, just move, right?
Yeah, ecstatic dance is just this freedom of movement, and it's a group of people who get together.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, and it's dance. And usually, if you're in an open space, there's headphones on. Sometimes it's like silent, but the rules are there's no drugs and alcohol, so you have to be completely sober.
Yep.
And then you ask for permission if you want to have like physical contact with somebody, and being okay if they don't want to. But there's this sense of just moving with people or moving by yourself, and it's liberating.
Totally. Yeah. It felt like it through that post.
Mm-hmm.
That's that energy of being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that, sober, right? Because I didn't even think about that. I would go sober, obviously, but some people would be tripping on like psilocybin, right?
Yeah, I
That
think
is a good
sober is
point.
a really important piece sometimes too, right? And this is nothing against plant medicine, but I think there are times that it is important that you need to know who you are without anything in your system before you decide that you need some medicine to fix anything.
Totally.
I agree.
Totally. I have a big question because over the weekend I watched a documentary from a friend. She came in from Brooklyn. I had two friends come in from out of town. And she's like, have you ever watched this documentary called I think it's Unhealed, or I'll have to look it up. But there was an episode on ayahuasca, and I've never sat with Mother Ayahuasca yet. And so my sister and I watched it together. We're like, let's look at it. And at the end, I was like, what's your verdict? I go, would you ever do it? She goes, probably. But I got from the documentary that when you do plant-based medicine, you still got to go in without medicine. Like, she's like, that's an outside energy that helps to clear a lot of old stuff. Yeah. But you still got to do the work. And I was like, I agree. Right. So all these things outside of you, whoever's listening in terms of like ayahuasca, plant-based, if you guys are doing this, I kind of want to hear it in the show notes. Like, what do you guys think? Like, can you heal from an outside source outside of you? Because I'm moving into the system of, nah, you can't.
I don't feel it. And I think that's the thing is I always look at, and I wrote this yesterday. This was literally me and Spirit.
Weird.
Yesterday. Me and Spirit were sitting yesterday, and that's what they were talking. I wrote it yesterday. It was 2 days ago. Anyways, about the fact that the belief system behind having to heal with something outside of ourselves is so ingrained in ourselves, right?
Right.
We want to go back, right? Like into assimilation. We want to go back into decolonization. You have to understand where that started from. That's not the way it was. Even in the practice of plant medicine didn't necessarily mean I was disengaging or trying to heal myself outside of myself. It was to expand our awareness to what already was within ourselves. And I think looking at it now, it's like, no, you can't. You have to really learn how to go within, and going back into what we're saying, like that's trusting within, trusting yourself, acknowledging that, right? Spirit, creator is not something that is separate, which is a belief system that has been taught over and over again. I'm not worthy. It's something outside of myself. I have to make a decision based on that's highest and best for their rules, not for my own. But when we come to the understanding that, no, you got to stay grounded. You got to stay present. You got to have that awareness. Because like we always say, right, your intuition's a full body system. It's a full body system. You can't disconnect and make those practices outside. I really feel like it's all about coming inside. I'm not against plant medicine as long as your practices are stable in understanding the other presence of awareness and grounding and embodying versus I'm still escaping in order to solve or have this to heal it. No, you can't. It doesn't work. It's a Band-Aid over a wound. It's you gotta heal it still.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah. I don't think I need ayahuasca right now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of reasons. I think, if we're talking about using things to learn how to trust who you are, I think I've been doing a lot of work for years learning how to trust who I am. And I also think I'm pretty sensitive. And, I've mentioned to you too, like I do flotation tank therapy. And I have psychedelic experiences in a flotation tank, like completely. So I think doing ayahuasca is not something that I need to do because I can get myself to a psychedelic state on my own.
Right.
Just like we're talking, and it's bananas. It's so funny. Actually, somebody did say in Slovenia, they said they were wondering to themselves, Onika probably doesn't have to do ayahuasca, does she? And I don't. Like, I don't think I do, because I can take myself somewhere on my
Absolutely.
own. And I was listening to an IG Live several months ago where someone was talking about ayahuasca, and you don't need to do ayahuasca to ask ayahuasca for advice. You can call on ayahuasca just as you are right now and ask the questions that you need to ask.
I like
Because
that.
it's always there listening for you. And I think so often, here in the States, we're so quick to want to like pop a pill or find something to like get us off so we can go somewhere, when we don't have to. And you can still do that, and it takes work and it takes practice, but it's completely possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just going all the way back to trusting your gut, and you don't need any outside source to tell you what your gut is saying. It's actually
But you need practice. Yeah, but practice, like, and you need to be committed. It's not like, this isn't just like, oh, I'm going to meditate for one day and the world's going to be open. Like, no, you need to sit your ass down every single day for years. Like, it doesn't just come,
Yes. There's a part in Eat, Pray, Love, that movie with Julia Roberts. I love that movie. And she went to India, and her friend was like hardcore, like telling her what to do. And she's like, I'm meditating, I'm listening. He's like, you need to sit your ass down. Like, just like what you said. And he's like, go there, meditate, keep doing it every day. Like, he was so hard on her, and they became like the best of friends in that movie. Because it's like, that's the truth. You got to face your demons inside.
I think what's really hard, and I think you mentioned it early on, it's that when we trust our gut, right? Like, let's say you have that, your heart's racing, you got that anxiety, you got like, I got to make this choice. I don't want to make this choice. I think those are some of the things to say, that like when you're trusting your gut, it's not always based on a choice that maybe isn't always your biggest desire, right? Like you just know, like, I feel like I need to make this choice, but it's giving me anxiety. Like, your gut can give you anxiety. But I think you made a good point, Mal, when you said, when you make the choice, it just feels right. And I think that's it. It's that after the end of your choice, if you feel like a peace and a calmness, like that is highly like, I made the right choice, right? Like you will feel, even if it's an illogical quote choice, it's like for me, I go back into like when I chose to get divorced, it was not filling any of the check boxes of logic whatsoever. It was like, no, this is not a logical choice. But at the end of it, I think I was just like, oh my God. Like I was like, I get to be me. I get to be my truth every day. I get to like be my fullest expression. And it was just this sense of like, release. And I think that's what it all comes back to it. But Monika, you even said something too, when you were talking about your story, you made a statement of worth. Like you said something about being worthy or worth. And I think that's one of the biggest things too, is that's the other struggle too. When people look at trusting your gut too, is I'm not worthy. Why me? Right? Especially when we look at bigger decisions or different things that we make or however it is, I'm not worthy. Who am I to think I can do this? Or who am I to think I should be doing this?
That imposter syndrome, right?
Right?
Yeah. A regulated nervous system too, just even physiologically speaking, I think is really important too when we learn how to trust our gut. And if we've grown up with a lot of trauma, we're walking around completely dysregulated. So it's like you need to know, like, and dysregulation done long enough starts to feel like regulation. So it's like really understanding what it means to have a regulated nervous system. And really, and again, it keeps coming back to this idea, understanding and having a place or a community or a teacher that you can practice with who can teach you what it means like to be regulated. This is what it means to feel settled, right? There were so many people when I was working at Rikers who didn't know what it meant to be chill, to be regulated, right? Chill is my fancy way for saying regulated. It's a very technical medical term, chill.
I think,
but it's important.
That's why I always
Yes.
talk to people about the fact of your sympathetic versus your parasympathetic, in your nervous system. And knowing, I always tell people, like, look, your nervous system has your sympathetic and your parasympathetic, right? Your sympathetic is your flight and your fight or flight. I always stumble between those words for some
Me
reason.
too.
Yeah, and freeze and fawn are the other things in your
Right,
sympathetic nervous
right.
system.
And your parasympathetic is your rest and your digest. But the thing is the fact that these two systems they cannot be on at the same time. It's either one or the other, right? You can guess that most of us live in fight or flight. Always.
Yep.
That's our mode of living, where we have to get used to living in the other one. So many health benefits to living in the other one. But my point of this is that I always tell people, look, when you live in fight or flight, you have to understand the degree that your body and your mind does not understand the differences of fear levels, doesn't understand fear levels.
Yep.
So you fearing to make a new choice or you fearing for your life is the same exact vibrational fear. It's all the same in your body. So your body making any new change, because we're creatures of habit, is going to activate that sympathetic. It's going to activate that nervous system because your body's gotten used, even if something is for harm or is not in your highest vibrational truth, it's gotten used to living in that state. It's gotten used to that vibration. So when we make any changes within our mind or body or whatever, your body, your function, your nervous system goes like, oh my God, what the hell is she doing? Or
It's like,
what the hell they're doing?
Alert,
what are they doing? I need to fight this. So I always tell people, like, you making different decisions and you feeling that alertness is your body actually functioning correctly. But you providing that sense of safety is what changes it, right? So there's always, breathing and, like you said, yoga, different ways of getting into that body so that you provide, I'm safe in my decision. I'm safe to navigate forward. I'm safe in providing this and teaching that body and your subconscious mind, the new vibration of what it is. But I think any new changes that you make in learning and trusting your gut is going to feel off-putting before we do it.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, it's like people are going to be like, what are the symptoms of like me not trusting my gut? Or how do I know if my gut is unhealthy or my instinct? And it's like when shit hits the fan over and over and over and over.
There you go.
When people go, man, I want to be with my husband, and she's supposed to leave him, right? And this keeps happening. Or I had a client 2 weeks ago. She goes, me and my husband had our house broken into. Then we got in our car accident. Then we parked our cars in the street and a drunk driver hit our cars. This is all in 1 week.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, we need to take a look at your marriage. Right? She's like, what does this mean from spirit? I'm like, what's crashing internally here? Right? Because spirit's going to keep showing up physically and trying to get you to a place of delayering so you understand that, again, your system that you think is regulated is not so much.
For real.
It's like, oh, shit. Right? It's like, code blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's when you hear yourself saying that everybody is this, right?
Ooh.
Everybody is being a jerk, or everybody is, wrong, or when everybody is doing something and it's bothering you, it may not be everybody. It may actually be you.
What's the common denominator?
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's the important thing that you have to start asking yourself if things are happening again and again and again. And then also too, I'm going to say this qualifier, right? Because we are talking about things through a BIPOC lens. Like if you are in an over-policed community, or if you're living in an environment that is unsafe, like you may constantly feel like you are dysregulated. And that doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of regulation. And it means that it may look differently and it only comes in moments. But it still has to be something that you do. It still has to be something that you claim for your liberation. And I think that's really, really important that we can find it in moments. And when you feel like, when you're confronted with something and you're like, ooh, that felt like that was racist or something happened, that you can believe that, right? You have to start believing that you're not crazy in something that happened. And those are like little ways that you can start to trust, like that colonization has also done a number on your head sometimes, right? And that so I think there's two things that we're talking about: trusting our gut when we make our own bullshit and our own messes and we have to own it. And then there's trusting that the external narrative that somebody may be saying to you is coming from a place that's meant to harm you. So you have to sort of recognize that and unpack it.
Right.
And it's not fair, but it's our responsibility, you know?
It's so rough, though.
Sucks, right? It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks that we have to decolonize, but we do. But we do.
Yeah, we just
So
do.
we might as well do it.
Might as well do it. Might as well do it.
Might as well just do it.
Right? Like, pick and choose. Don't prolong. Woo!
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
It's so interesting when you look at the fact of, speaking in that same terms, it's so interesting when you do study your history on how much we have learned not to trust our gut.
Yes.
Right.
It's so much, it's so interesting on how just everything that we've been taught is like I said earlier, just to separate from our own self, and that I don't care. Like, yes, we're speaking from a BIPOC lens, but even from like all lenses, it's like what you've been taught, because it doesn't work. Control doesn't work any other way. Control doesn't work any other way. I think that's the beauty of being in this generation right now, and being a part of like what we're a part of is reteaching and having the opportunity to, help people have that awareness into learning otherwise, Do you think that trusting your gut gets easier? I love your advice.
Easier. I don't know if it gets easier, but I think it becomes, I can recognize it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's like, no, it doesn't get easier. It just, the response time is faster, though.
Yeah,
it's like,
that.
Oh, I can feel that. No, that's a no. Or I can feel that's a yes, real fast, much faster. Yeah.
I just ask, I feel like, because I know recently, like, it's funny because I think right now as we're filming this, we were talking about how everybody's shifting. Everybody's been shifting timelines. Everybody's shifting ways where I was even telling people like, hey, if you got a reading, like some of these readings are no longer valid, FYI. Like, just FYI. They're completely shifted.
Reroute.
Yeah, reroute. You ain't doing the work, or maybe you're doing the work and now we're going in a different direction. There's a whole bunch of shifting happening. That's a whole nother topic. But I say this in the sense that, like, I feel even just the three of us looking at, like, in our last weeks, like, so many of us have, like, stripped. I think that's the right word. We've stripped ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I think looking at the fact, like, I know for me, like, I've just made, even though it's not huge, right? I redid my whole services. Like, I did my whole services, meaning I had to let go of some things that, quote, provided safety in order to step more into alignment. And I fought it. And I'm telling you, I'm laughing looking at it because the universe was dropping every freaking symbol in my lap. Like, change. Like, Will has been like telling me what I need to do. And I'm
edit.
Yeah, I'm like, just don't talk to me about my business, and like, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, until yesterday, I was like, it all came together and I was like, oh, like, okay, universe, I don't know what this looks like, but like, here we go. We're trusting it,
What are they asking you to do now?
Well, Mel, I took like a month or 2 months off of readings. Remember I did that?
Oh,
I didn't want to do any readings. And then I reopened I opened the gates and I was back on doing readings. And then again, I was like, I love coaching. That's my passion. I love coaching, and I love doing energy clearings. I love the healing aspect of it. I love it. So I just did it. I took energy. So I cleared all of my energy clearings and my readings, made one energy clearing / reading. You want a book? That's it. You're going to get the clearing with the reading done. That way.
Oh, just like one service.
That's no longer, I want to do readings or clearings and there's 5 different types of clearings. Nope, it's one. I will service you in all ways in one. And then I changed my coaching services instead of having like shadow and spiritual to just, there's mentorship level 1 and there's mentorship level 2. Mentorship level 1 is focused on shadow. Mentorship level 2 is focused on intuition, because if you want to do your intuition, you got to do your shadow
work.
And each one is 6 months. It's a 6-month program. So it's 6 months.
I love that.
And it just feels peaceful. It feels balanced and good. It's more money, but that's irrelevant because that's my work and that's what I love and I'm worth it. I'm sorry. I'm worth it.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
That's the name of this year, I feel, for everyone. It's like simplification, like
Right.
really going in and taking a look at the weeds and like, okay, we don't need this, we don't need this, but it was necessary, but we don't need this. So that
Right.
makes sense. And you know, us as intuitives, healing people one-on-one to group, doesn't matter. It's always going to be the same tools in the toolbox. So it's like when people ask me what I do, I'm like, it depends on you. Like, what do you need? Right? Because yeah, for me, it's the same thing. It's 60, 90, 2-hour sessions. It's all the same. You pick a time. That's what I say. Like how long you want to sit for. But I agree with that. And that duality of you want to come back home to yourself, you got to take a look at the dirt first. You got to look at the soil before you can bloom.
Ooh,
right?
that's a good one. Duality and trusting your gut.
Yeah. Fudge. I'm trying not to curse as much. My sister's twins are 4 and they repeat me now. And she's like,
Oh,
she looks at me, she's like, oh, we got to change this. I was like, uh-oh. So, fudgical. Darn it.
Let's go there. What about duality? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, in terms of healing, yeah, with what you just said, with the shadow work versus the light work, right? But it's kind of like when spirit shows me, they're like, fear is not separate from love. It is love. You just got to nurture it. So I think what us healers mean by shadow work is let's take a softer, nurturing approach to things that you've been sweeping under the rug, right? And the cool thing about us as healers, I know when my clientele goes skyrocket high, it's because I'm doing the work. Like I'm practicing what I preach. So there's this energy of like, when I slow down and practice, or I'm not getting as much money or clients, I'm like, I got to take a look deep in. Right. But man, I've been on this 3-year journey now with 4 different therapists from different modalities. And I'm like, it's so cool to learn about the shadow with a lens of nurturing and like gentleness. Because of other shamans who I've sat with years ago, it was more like a attack,
I was going to say,
execution mode. Yeah, like just pull it out. And now it's more like, you're safe here. It's okay. You're okay here. But let's slowly look at this. I love that. I like the gentle approach more.
yeah,
It works more for my, I think my design. But yeah, it's looking at shadow and not thinking it's a bad thing. I think that's what the world is shifting into. It's like, oh, you got something wrong with you. Maybe that's what makes you beautiful. Because that's when you heal that through the lenses of love, you get to be able to share that. And that's what we do as healers. We've been through so much trauma and we're continuously healing and sharing. It's pretty rad to see the mirror effect almost of our clients and our friends, right?
Yeah.
That's a duality. Fear versus love. There's no versus. Fear is love.
Yeah. I like that.
With the yoga culture, I know that they always say, are you living in fear or love? It has that kind of transformed over the years, Oneika?
I don't live in the yoga world.
Yeah. You're like, I kind of live there. I dip my toe.
I don't. And I think it's why I'm not, I didn't want to be one of those yoga teachers because I could never get with that bullshit.
Thank
you. The bypassing energy.
Yeah. I couldn't get with that nonsense of punishing a part of me or only saying that I had to live in this positive place when it's just that's not life. The reality is I did the things that I needed to do because that's the way that I thought I could survive. So I need to thank that Oneika for the choices that she made to survive. And now that I know better, I do better. So you can honor that part of you without trying to punish it or push it away.
Right.
Everything that I've done is on my path to enlightenment. I mean, I think that's a good point. In what you said, it's there's multiple things that you said right now, right? It's I don't vibe with the whole just positivity and not shining light on the other aspects. And I think the point of us, I'm closing my eyes because I'm just trying to remember everything right now. As we look at honoring our truth or even us trusting our gut, doesn't mean that it's a painless journey. It doesn't mean that it's, painless. It means that in order to find, right, that voice, that spark and trusting your gut is leading you to that light within. And getting that light within means that you're going to have to do the process. You're going to have to feel the emotions. You're going to have these things rise up in you to get to that. And I think that definitely, needs to be acknowledged. Just because you're trusting your gut, and yes, you might feel peace in it, which you will, but just doesn't necessarily mean the work is done. It means the work has begun, and allowing yourself to process what that feels like and what that looks like. So just know that you may be like, am I doing this wrong? Is this wrong? Why do I feel this? Because you just took a big, bold ass step. You've removed a layer, and now it's time to do the work.
It's funny. You remind me of my girls, because they're spoiled. So I make them do chores. And they're like, look, I cleaned my room. I'm like, good. Did you clean the living room? Like, it's like, you just got started, boo-boo. When you said you thought you were done, you've just begun. It's one of those.
Yeah, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
And it's cleaning your living room and your bedroom for the rest of your life. This doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's like, now you're good at it. See, I'm trying not to teach them. Don't show her that we're good at this so we don't have to do it anymore. That kind of.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was little. I'm like, I suck at dishes, so my sister should do them instead. Right?
Oh my God, I have one of those.
But it's so true. It's like the work is forever. That's just the work. You just get used to doing it, right? And that's like, spoiler alert for anybody listening that you thought you were going to do this once and, it was all going to be lovely. Sorry. No, it's like really hard. And it's really uncomfortable. And on some days it feels like bliss. And on other days it feels like hell. And that's just what it's all about. And that's amazing, because that's being a human being.
That's
right?
life. Yeah. Yeah. Before we started recording, I was like, girls, I haven't been in love or in a relationship for so long. How does it feel? And you guys were like, well, you both answered like, it's work, right?
I think what I said was, it's okay most of the time.
I was like, perfect answer. That's a perfect answer.
Everyone paused. I'm like, what the hell?
I think that's a whole nother topic on everybody's thought processes. That love is this freaking blissed out existence.
Yeah.
I love that spirit. I just heard the only blissed out experience you're going to get around love is the love you have for yourself. That's
that part.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any other blissed out experience with loving somebody or putting that on.
I got to write down what you said we've heard this many times before in different ways, but when you think you're done, you've only just begun.
That's true.
Yeah, so
that
true.
was a good one, Isabel, or whoever your guide was. You've just begun.
My guides are funny.
They are funny. Oh my gosh. Woo.
I had somebody I was working with. With my. Well, she's a client, but she was my old business coach, and she was helping me yesterday getting all my services aligned. And so, after having her for a client, I think now she understands a little bit more of my guides or my spirit team, and she just was busting up. I was like, I know they're a little bit much. My spirit team's a much. She's like, they're so loud and they all talk at once. And I was like, yeah, that's why, if you know me, for one, that makes sense. Two, it's also like, I think why I read so fast. I was like, because it's like 5 conversations happening in my head, plus the conversation I'm having with them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, that's them. But there's times in readings, I feel so bad. I start laughing. Like, I just laugh like, because I can hear their smirk or their comments, especially before I start channeling. And it's always not the best. I'm like, I'm sorry. They're going. But guys,
you're so funny.
I love that.
Yeah. People look at us like we're crazy. We're like, and we're just like, what? Do you love me or not? Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, I got acupuncture and cupping this weekend too. I did a lot this weekend. And my guy, who I see him every other week, he is so intuitive, my friend Gary, and he was doing cupping on me, and he had to open his office door because he has a standalone office that goes to the outside. He's like, girl, I'm like, what? He goes, your guys are so demanding, I had to ask them to leave.
Wow.
He was like, girl, It was so funny. I started laughing so hard.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's like, they are demanding. I'm like, yeah, they've been lately. And he's like, So I understand on so many levels. It's like earmuffs. Like not within this hour, please. Thank you. Goodbye.
I know.
Whew.
All right, guys, do you have anything to tell them regarding trusting your gut before we leave? Is there anything else?
Practice.
Mhm.
Know yourself.
Yeah.
Know that it never ends. And find your people that you can talk
Yeah.
to. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
You need a community.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I just had a question. Is trusting the gut the same as intuition? I know it's a basic one for me, maybe,
Yeah.
but I want to acknowledge it. Go ahead, Mel. What'd you say?
I agree. I think so. Yeah. Your gut is your intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I just wanted to say it because I know somebody's going to be like, is trusting your gut the same as your intuition?
Totally. It's
Wait,
like,
how
yeah,
are they
they're
going
the
to
same.
say it?
Is trusting your gut the same as intuition? That's the same voice they use when they're like, is so-and-so my twin flame or my soulmate?
God, you are so funny.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Hilarious.
Mine's very similar too. But it's more Valley Girl. It's more Valley Girl. What is your internal voice?
Why
Oneika?
is your girl a valley girl?
She's like,
I think mine's a Valley Girl too.
Or like, so
Like, oh my God. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, that's mine.
You guys, we're over here supposed to like decolonize and not
Listen,
you guys,
it's a process.
it's a process.
yes. I mean, sometimes my voice is not like that at all. Depends
If you
on the
look
day.
at my ancestry DNA, it's maybe not so. It's a colonizer inside me coming out.
Totally.
For your guys.
That was funny. Isabel's was nasally. Like,
It's that.
That was
It's
funny.
that like 5% of me that's British coming out.
well, I think no. Oh man.
That's so
So
funny.
trust yourself, guys. Be gentle would be my thing about trusting yourself. Like, be
Yeah.
gentle on yourself, please. Because I'm the opposite. I used to be the opposite, just go hard, and now it's like, chill, sister.
I like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Anything, Isabel?
Gentle. No, I think that's perfect. It's a perfect way of like saying it. You guys gotta like be gentle on yourself. Give yourself a break. I think we tend to overthink and overanalyze the decisions that we know and feel are best for us because it doesn't work for everybody else.
Mhm.
You didn't choose this journey for everyone else. You chose to be here on earth for
Ooh.
yourself and you chose it for you. And as much as that's a hard space to honor at times, that's the space you have to honor.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
what we have to honor, and that's what we're always called back to honor. And that's that state of awareness that we're always talking about on coming back to you and honoring that space. And so, as hard it is to make these choices, and we may quote feel they're selfish. When you make that choice and you trust your gut, it's actually really cool to watch everything fall into play.
Yeah.
And as much as we feel it might be a selfish move, it's oftentimes, and if not, one of the most unselfish moves we can make because of the energy that we bring in, the vibration that changes. And it's just such a cool journey to watch as pieces just we didn't expect come into play, right?
Yeah.
I just think about my own journey and the way that it's reflected back to me. And it's not anything I could have imagined had I not made the choices I made.
Mhm.
Amen. Yeah, it's like the fuck ups equal a win, to be
Mhm.
honest. Like
Yeah.
as you walk the road. So if you play too safe, that's not living either. Yeah.
I don't think our journey's safe. Like I don't think
No.
we chose
Some
this to
other
be
clients I
safe.
have, they're like, I'm gonna stay with my husband. I'm gonna stay with my wife. Those are safe things, right? I'm gonna stay at this job that I hate. It's like, the answer's right outside of that, right? It's like,
Dude, I wonder sometimes like what my life would be like. I wonder what that feels like. Like I look back at it and I know you're like, oh, but I look
You'd be
back
bored.
and I'm like, dude, like, what if that was it still? Like, what would my life be? Like, I get to just,
if you stayed in your marriage or something,
like it was safe. I got
Yeah.
money. I got
You'd
the
be
house.
miserable.
I didn't have to work.
you'd be miserable because you were, weren't you?
miserable. I was miserable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You'd
There's
be
so many
day
components.
drinking at lunch somewhere.
Girl, I
Yeah.
wasn't just day drinking. I was puff passing.
Dang. Yeah, fuck
The only way of
that.
survival.
Yeah, no, you survival. Yeah, nah. Man, we could go for days on that one. Remember I first met you with that? And I was like, no. I was like, you gotta go. You're like, really? I'm like, yeah,
Dude,
you gotta
Mel
move.
scared me.
I know. See, that's what I'm saying. My guides were like gangster before. Now they're like slowly.
You do
Take
have
a
your gigs have
moment.
your guide. That's it. Like I love that. Like that's a whole nother topic.
Mhm.
Like our guides change,
Yeah.
and like your guides are so different compared to where I met you. Like they're
Yep.
so different. Mine are too.
And
Like
I've
mine are
changed.
too. Huh?
Like I've healed
Yeah.
since I've met you.
Mhm.
So it's like your guides will change according to your energy. Yeah. Yeah. Because you said something last 2 podcasts ago. You said, there's like this cool piece about you now. I'm like, yeah, because I've healed a lot of shit.
Mhm.
And then it just begun into another journey, but
Yeah.
that's another day. But yeah, gentle.
All right.
All right.
You have anything, Mel, that you want to tell folks before you start your sabbatical?
Yes. Well, I'll be taking a sabbatical from Motherland and from a lot of other projects in general. But and we'll see if I find myself back this way or in a different route to the girls. Either way, there's a route back. But I think the whole topic of today is trust your gut, honor yourself, and those who honor you back are your people. And the moment I said to the girls I needed to take a step back, it was like no questions asked, really. So trust yourself. And if people kind of bark back at you and aren't listening, those aren't your people anyway. It's time to up level from that frequency. So yeah, trust yourself.
Cool. We love you, Mel.
We
Love you
love
guys.
you.
Deeply.
Bye, guys.